weeks, we're going to have the opportunity to make a choice. We can either choose to allow extremists like Greg Abbott to continue waging a war on our freedoms and moving our state backwards, or we can mobilize our generation, the most diverse generation in history, to turn out, vote for real leaders like Beto O'Rourke, and flip the governor's mansion for the first time in nearly 30 years. And so speaking of real leaders, I also want to take this opportunity. I'm so privileged to be introducing one of the hardest working members of Congress, our representative, Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Cyrus, you are stupendous. And when I hear President of the Young Democrats, I get excited. Give him a very big hand. I'm excited about that. Wow. This is an amazing coming together of the most powerful people in the nation and around the world. You know why? Because a young woman by the name of Amini in Iran tried to be free. 22. And she couldn't be free. And look at you. You live in a nation that its very principles are about freedom, reproductive freedom, civil rights, civil liberties. It is about the understanding that whoever I am, LGBTQ, I am free in America. Whenever my parents try to tell me if I'm a transgender, they are free in America. Sadly, what we have in this state today is a shackle upon your feet. As a member of the United States Congress, I take great pride, having worked with Beto, of course, in fighting for the new reduction and the consideration of reducing student loans that you will feel when you get out. Making sure that everybody has health care. Not just somebody who can sit on the mountaintop, but those who may be looking up to the mountaintop. Everybody. And to ensure that the opportunities of life and liberty and economic engine is yours as well. Why should it just be the folk yesterday or what happened the other year, decades ago? No. This nation is not yours tomorrow. This state is not yours tomorrow. It is today. This is your state, your nation, and your future. How about that? And so today we are gathered with this one sentence that I want to leave you with. There's so much. As I go back to Washington, let me simply say yesterday, I spent the day in a congressional children's hearing the Uvalde test. It was a solemn moment. It reminded us of people who need not be forgotten. Unfortunately, in this state, there are pleas of banning assault weapons, raising the age on assault weapon purchases. But just to be remembered has gone silence. In this state, there's a young lady named Brittany Griner who's in a jail in Russia. I haven't heard a single word from the leader of this state. She's your age. There's a sister who knows. Went to Nimitz High School. I say this to say, do we not want compassion back in government? I can't hear you. Do we not want compassion back? Do we not want freedom back in government? That's not loud enough if you want freedom. Do we not want a public servant back in government who listens to you? And so my my word to you is this historic moment in 2022 is yours. It's not mine. I hope to get out as many folk as I possibly can, carrying some on my back, but it is yours. When the New York Times and the Washington Post, the singular papers that tell us what life is like in America, when they report the day after November in 2022, and they report that Texas has gone places where they never thought it would go, they will report that it started right here in the University of Houston, Texas Southern University, and all across this state. That made the difference. I am glad to be here. I want the headlines to say the only reason we won in Texas, the only reason it became blue, because all of the students and those of you who have come of age, worked like you've never worked before, volunteered like you never did before, registered people to vote, and you voted because your voice is your vote and your vote is your voice. I am excited to be at the University of Houston with your friends from TSU, and I'm excited to be here with the tree shakers who are going to shake the nation, shake Texas, and make a difference. And guess what? Between our good friend Cyrus, who says he's not going to sleep, and then the president of the student government that you have entrusted him to do the hard work. And I want you to know when you're asleep, Josh Martin is doing the hard work. He cares about you. He wears red in his sleep and breathes it. But he is truly a U of H, a Cougar, but he's a leader and he is ready to work with you. That's what we do. Not me, we work with you to bring a victory to the University of Houston and the great state of Texas and TSU. That's our president of the student government.
Well, first off, before I get off, let's give a round of applause to a great mentor, someone I think of a family member, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Let's give it up for her. Finally, in Washington, day in and day out. And one more thing. Whose house? There we go. I think we need to let all our visitors know what I can give a really warm welcome. Another thing I really want to acknowledge all of our Texas Southern students that we have here in the audience today. Here at Texas Southern, we got one of the senators, Raven here. Raven, can you stand? Where's Raven? Raven, thank you for all that you're doing. I really appreciate you're over here fighting a good fight to ensure that we protect democracy come this November. And as your student body president, I knew how important it was to make sure that our students here on campus can hear from our next governor, Beto O'Rourke. And I know we've seen the headlines, I know we've seen the media, but it's clear that there's a lot going on in the state of Texas right now. It's very clear. There's so many things going on, and I think that we have a really great candidate that's going to move our state and eventually move our state forward in the direction to where we can say that we are proud. And I mean, we can honestly look at what's going on in Austin right now. That does not reflect the views, that does not reflect the values of the college students in the state of Texas, does it? Which is why we need to stand up and vote for change. And I know, whenever we elect Beto O'Rourke to become the next governor of Texas on November 8th, we will flood the polls like never seen before. And we're going to send a strong message to Austin that Texas will not take this stuff any longer. So without further ado, let's give it up for the next governor of Texas, Beto O'Rourke. Let's hear it for President Martin. I want to thank
I'll say this. I had the pleasure and the honor of serving with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee for 6 years. And here's my only worry for this community, is that you have become so accustomed for other members of Congress. And no one, because I've met them all, Democrat, Republican alike, works as hard as she does for you, for their constituents. And it's not just for the people of this district. It is the people of Texas. It is the people of this country. The moral clarity with which she speaks about the most important focus on the next generation covers us with honor and distinction right here in the state of Texas. And I could not be any prouder than I am right now to have her with us right now at this moment. And you better believe that when we win this, I'm going to be working with her hand in hand to make sure that each of us is able to deliver for each and every one of you. Let's hear it for Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, one of the all-time leaders of Texas. Look at this. All of these amazing students from the University of Houston, from Texas Southern University, where we will be traveling a little bit later today to join some extraordinary young leaders who are registering other young Texans at TSU to get on the rolls. No one asked them to do this at this moment. They understand, as the Congresswoman just reminded us, that our very civil rights, civil liberties, and the ability to freely and fairly choose those who will serve us and represent us in positions of power and public trust, all of that is under attack right now in Texas, more than it is in any other state in the Union. And as young people have and now it was compelled by another young person, John Lewis, who at the tender age of 24 years old led a march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, simply for the right to be treated as a full citizen in his own democracy, the right to vote. And not 8 days later, LBJ calls a joint session, this is to the effect of, as it was in Lexington and Concord, in the Revolutionary War that first won the freedoms for this country, as it was when we finally decided to question whether one American might be able to own another. So it is today in Selma, Alabama. Those who are fighting for our freedoms, this right to vote, and the very democracy that distinguishes us and differentiates us from the whole of human history of the planet. Let's say this. So are all of us in the year of our Lord 2020 succumb to what has come down as extremism and hatred and the fear that we're supposed to feel about one another. Every single freedom the Congresswoman just talked about under attack right here in this state, or we can rise to the challenge and be in the fight of our lives, fighting for the lives of our fellow Texans. That is what you have chosen to do at this moment of truth. And when the history books are written about this era, when this democracy, which has stood the test of time, more or less, for the last 246 years, was under the greatest attack of our lives, we chose not only to do our part, but to overcome it. And to make sure that we're more than a match for everything bad that is coming down the pipe right now. Every single one of us who is under attack and who might very well lose their lives unless we stand up and fight for them. In other words, how lucky are we to be alive at this moment? A generation that gets to fight for every single thing that matters. And that describes you and everyone in here. Because I'll tell you this, on the night of November 8th, when this contest is called, when this election is decided, you and I together, all of us, we will win this election and we will win it for Texas. You are with me? We are going to win. And we're going to win because we're fighting for every woman to make her own decisions about her own body, her own future, and her own health care. We're going to win because we prioritize the lives of those kids in those classrooms before the NRA or any special interest in this sport. We're going to win because we honor the service and sacrifice of public school educators. We're going to pay them enough so they work just one job. We're going to cancel the STAR test so they can focus on those children in the program and the cash. And we're going to make sure that instead of trying to scare kids and parents of teachers about critical race theory, that we teach the full history and story of everybody here in the state of Texas. We're going to win because we believe in the right to vote, and after we win, we're going to make sure that no longer can those in power choose their voters. We're going to end the practice of gerrymandering in Texas, replace it with citizen-led redistricting commissions, online voter registration, same-day voter registration, automatic voter registration. And let me try this one on for size. What if we replace Confederate Heroes Day as a state holiday with Election Day as a state holiday in the state of Texas? Tell it to go off work so that you can actually vote. And we're going to do smart, common sense, bipartisan things, because I know you all see an injustice when it's right in front of you. The fact that this country incarcerates more of its own citizens than any other nation on the planet. Whatever we want to say about Russia or China or Iran or North Korea, we put more of our own behind bars than any of them do. And Texas puts more people in jail and prison than any other state in the union. So many there for nonviolent drug offenses, far too many for possession of a substance that is legal in almost every other state in the country. Let me say this, you all know this full well. Texans of all races and ethnicities use marijuana at roughly the same rate, but disproportionately will be black and brown Texans who are stopped by police, who are frisked, who are found in possession, who are incarcerated, who after serving time will have to check a box on every employment application form, will be denied student loans because of that conviction, will not be able to get ahead the way they should be able to get ahead. So look, when we win this, we're going to legalize marijuana in the state of Texas. And we'll take this further. We are going to expunge the arrest records for anyone caught in possession in the state of Texas. This is the right thing to do. Democrats support this, independents support this, and Republicans do as well. We're just going to get back on the right track in Texas. Instead of being defined by our differences, who we're supposed to be afraid of or hate next. That's Greg Abbott's Texas. It's you or it's me. We're going to come together and do big things. Fully fund our schools. Expand Medicaid so you can actually afford to see a doctor, such a therapist, fill that prescription. The other reason that I know that we're going to win, beyond all of you being here, and these great things that we want to do, and all the folks that we're fighting for right now, is because we're running against arguably the worst governor in the United States of America today. I mean, let me give it to you by the numbers. It's been 1 month since the most extreme abortion ban in the country went into effect. It was signed by Greg Abbott last year. Total ban, no exception for rape, hear me out, no exception for incest. It begins at conception in a state that's at the epicenter of a maternal mortality crisis that is 3 times as deadly for black women as it is for white women in the state of Texas right now. This is going to kill more women in Texas, mark my words, until and unless we change course. And I don't know if you all caught the press conference where he was signing this extreme abortion ban into law. He was asked by a reporter what he was going to do about the fact that there is no exception for rape. And arguably, in this state, because of Greg Abbott, rapists now enjoy more rights than their victims. In fact, a rapist can sue anyone who assists his victim in obtaining an abortion and maybe collect a $10,000 bounty. Well, when asked about this, Abbott says, oh, you don't need to worry about that. I'm going to eliminate rape in the state of Texas. Let me give you a report from the front lines. More rapes have been committed in the state of Texas than any other state in the union, and that is because not only has he not eliminated it, he's never prioritized it. 3,000 untested rape kits are collecting dust at DPS headquarters right now in Austin, Texas. So listen, not only are we going to restore protection for the right to make your own private decisions on your own without government intervention, we are also going to lift up the maternal health care of every single woman in this state and prioritize the health care for those who are dying at a frightening rate. That is African American women in our communities. They need access to the care that will literally save their lives, and we'll make sure that we provide it. It has been another number for you. 18 weeks to the day since 19 children and their 2 courageous teachers were taken from us. Those kids, no match for someone who walks into that classroom with an AR-15, a weapon designed for war, whose high-impact, high-velocity round destroys everything that it hits in your body. Their parents could only identify them by the shoes that they were wearing or the DNA swab that they took. But those kids were not just defenseless against that young man and that AR-15. They were defenseless against a governor who will not lift a finger to protect them. 5 of the worst mass shootings have happened in this state in the last 5 years on this guy's watch. The only thing he's done is to ignore law enforcement, who asked him not to sign permitless carry into law because it allows anyone, including the most violent among us, to carry weapons without a background check, without any vetting, without any training whatsoever on our streets. Now, today, gun violence is the leading cause of death for children and teenagers in the state of Texas. And listen, we know about Santa Fe High School and Sutherland Springs in El Paso, Texas, Midland, Odessa, and now Uvalde, and we should continue to remember those communities, those families, and those victims. But let us also remember this. There are children who are killed every day in communities just like this one. And it has become so numbingly common that their names never make the newspaper. Their faces are never seen on the broadcast news. So let us have some courage and do the right thing by the long, proud tradition of responsible gun ownership in the state of Texas. Let us do right by them. Defend the Second Amendment, but do a better job of protecting the lives of our children. At a minimum, raise the age of purchase to 21 for an AR-15. Have a red flag law so that we can intervene before it's too late. And what about a universal background check for anyone who wants to purchase a firearm in this state? There might be a lot that we argue on, but on this much, I find common ground even between people of different parties. So let's get it done. One more number for you. Actually, 2 more. This is the penultimate. 18 months. It's been 18 months since you were freezing in your dorms or in your apartments or in your homes in the energy capital of the world, literally. If that describes Texas, it describes Houston even more. But the guy in the highest position of power could not keep the power going to those that he was supposed to serve. More than 700 of our fellow Texans lost their lives over 5 days in February. An 11-year-old boy in Conroe, Texas, not too far from where we are right now. No matter how many blankets his mom piled on his bed, wasn't enough to keep him alive. He was dead by the end of that night. A 75-year-old Vietnam-era veteran could no longer charge his oxygen tank in his home, so he rolled it out to his truck to charge it there. They found him dead the next morning of hypothermia. Representative Gene Wu has told me about people who in their apartments began to burn their furniture, and you only do that if it's the only way you're going to keep your kids alive. Those fires got out of control and ended up burning up those entire families. That happened in this state just 18 months ago. And to add insult to that injury and indignity, the grid is still not fixed. 3 conservation notices this summer. Toyota had to shut down the 3rd shift in San Antonio because they were drawing down too much power from the grid. And each of us now is paying $45 more per month in utility bills because Greg Abbott's buddies and top campaign contributors made $11 billion in profit while you were freezing in your home. I'll tell you how we're going to fix this after we win. Not only do we weatherize and winterize every part of the grid, not only do we connect our grid, ERCOT, with the national grid so we can pull down power when we need it, but those energy traders and pipeline CEOs who stole that $11 billion from our fellow Texans when they were suffering, dying, and freezing to death, we're going to take those bastards to court and get every single penny back and return it to the people of Texas. We're going to get that done. Here's my last one. My last one before you. 8 years. That's how long this guy has been in office. Do not let him distract you and blame Joe Biden or AOC or Beto O'Rourke or anyone else but himself. You all know where the buck stops in Texas. It is on the governor's desk. That's the one that he sits behind each and every single day. So when he tries to scare you about crime and defund the police, hear me out. Homicides in the state up 50% on his watch because he allowed anyone to carry a gun in public. Not only are kids dying from it, more cops have been gunned down in the state of Texas than any in the union so far. I told you what a poor job he is doing on rape and prosecuting those who have perpetrated these crimes. The arrest rate and bringing people to justice declined by half. And listen, if he wants to talk about funding, you and I all agree that we should fully fund the police, but also make sure that we are funding their training and also make sure that we hold those who have life and death power over our fellow Texans responsible for the abuses of those powers so that we build trust in our communities and improve public safety. But if this governor wants to talk about defunding, I'll tell you a story. 7 years ago, the police department in Uvalde, Texas, asked Governor Abbott for funding for their radios. Turns out when they went inside of a building, like an elementary school building, their radios no longer worked and talked to people who were on the outside of that building. The governor said no. 6 years ago, they repeated the request. 5 years ago, 4, 3, 2, 1. May 24, 2022. Those officers inside that building in Robb Elementary never got the message back from 911 dispatch because their goddamn radios didn't work because Greg Abbott refused to fund law enforcement when they needed it. We are going to prioritize the safety and security of each and every single one of us. Yes, that means funding. Yes, that means training. And yes, that means accountability up and down the ballot, starting at the very top. You all agree? For the last one, there's one last thing he's going to try to scare you about. Do not let him do this. And I recognize I'm saying this at the University of Houston, which may or may not be the most diverse institution of higher learning in the United States of America. And I say this in Houston, which I know to be the most diverse city in the country today. Now, you ask Greg Abbott why teachers are leaving the profession by the thousands, why the grid is still not fixed, why CPS is the worst run foster care program in America, and he'll try to distract you with CRT or transgender kids, or more likely than not, watch out, these Mexicans are coming over the border to get us, right? You've heard rhetoric about invasions. You've heard him on the eve of the El Paso shooting say this: Texans, we must take matters into our own hands. Texans, we must defend ourselves. What do you think that young man in Allen, Texas, who bought that AK-47 was thinking when he drove 650 miles to El Paso? Posted online ahead of walking into that Walmart, I have come to repel the Hispanic invasion of Texas that I have been warned about. Blew away 23 people in my hometown that doesn't lose 20 people in a year because it's one of the safest cities in America, not despite, but because it is a city of immigrants, and by their very presence they make us stronger, safer, and more successful than we would be otherwise. We don't need stunts like sending migrants on buses to Chicago or DC or New York. We need solutions for the people of Texas. How about this? How about we all agree to this? Look, if you want to come to this country, and especially if you want to come to Texas, you got to follow the law. But on our end, we are going to make sure that our laws follow our values and our interests and our needs and the reality here on the ground. If you want to come here to work, especially a job that no one else is willing to fill in Texas, let's make sure that there's a safe, legal, orderly path for you to be able to do that. If you want to join a family member and you're in India, the Philippines, or Mexico, and your wait time today is 20 years to do this the right way, I do not condone, but I certainly understand why someone might jump that line to be able to be with their families. Honestly, I might do the same thing if I were in the same position. So let's make sure that there's a safe, legal, orderly path for that person to do it the right way, the legal way. And listen, this one gets my heart, and I bet you it gets yours as well. There are those for whom coming to this country is literally the only option they have. And it's worth remembering something that Congressman Jackson Lee's former colleague, John Lewis, used to say to us. He'd say, look, we all came to this country in a different ship, but today we're in the same boat. Some of your ancestors came here 10,000 years ago. And we must remember that today we are standing on indigenous land, right? Others were brought here after they were literally kidnapped in Africa, in bondage, forced to literally build the wealth and success of this state, though they would never be able to share in what they had produced. Others came here of their own volition, but in many cases because they had no other option. For the O'Rourke's, in the 19th century, to stay in Ireland was to die. There was a famine that killed more than 1 million people. So my ancestors decided to go to the one place on the planet that would take them in. It was this country. And they came just like so many of your ancestors, not only to do better for themselves, but to try to do better for all of us. You read the story about the 53 migrants, the 53 human beings who were found dead in the back of that trailer in San Antonio, Texas, earlier this year. Now, imagine that you had just walked or ridden on top of a train called the Beast or La Bestia for 2,000 miles to get here. And you're finally in this country. And here's this truck, this trailer, and the smuggler who you have paid some ungodly amount of money to says, you need to climb into the back of this. Now, just for a second, uniquely in the animal kingdom, we have this power of empathy to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes or position. What would it take for you to get in the back of that trailer? You know it's not air conditioned. You know it's goddamn hot outside. You don't know if you're going to survive. You can't climb in there on your own. Maybe there's a stool. Maybe somebody lifts you up. But finally you get in. And the floor of that trailer is hot to the touch. Walls are hot to the touch. Now this, you're once in it. What compels you to reach down and grab hold of the hand of your 11-year-old daughter and lift her up with you as well? Now, you don't do this to steal anybody's job, or to take another kid's place in school, or for kicks, or a free ride, or a free lunch. You do this because it's probably the only way you're going to be able to save her life. In fact, you're willing to risk it in order to be able to get here. The wait time for an asylum adjudication is 6 years. 6 years where you may be in a refugee camp in Ciudad Juarez or Matamoros, hoping that your child is not kidnapped from you, hoping that you can have enough to be able to survive until that claim is heard, hoping you can get into the U.S. once that hearing date is set. And again, I don't condone, but I understand why someone might want to cross in between ports of entry in order to be able to get their child to safety. Why don't we lead the country in ensuring there's a safe, legal, orderly, and quick path instead of 6 years? How about 6 weeks? And if the answer is yes, welcome to America. And if it's not, then you have to return to your country of origin. We are a nation of laws, but I want to make sure our laws follow the values of this nation. And no state is better prepared to lead on this than the state of Texas. And you and I together, Republican, Democrat, young and old, we are going to get this done. Are you with me? No stunts, solutions going forward. Now, if you want to be part of this, and I want you to be part of this, the next step, with a little more than 40 days left until we decide the outcome of arguably the most important election in Texas history is to sign up with one of our volunteers who's wearing a yellow vest right now. Those volunteers will put you on the doors. Those voters who are targeted for suppression and intimidation. More than 500,000 voters here in this county did not vote in 2020. They're not lazy. They don't lack any love for this democracy. They have literally been disenfranchised and drawn out. You connecting with them, face to face, eyeball to eyeball, human to human, in this deeply divided moment, that is what breaks through. Social media doesn't do it. TV won't do it. There is nothing that does it except for you. And I promise you, if you will get on those doors, those who have sat out or been forced out of prior elections will come in and listen to this. Some pretty profound, poetic, powerful justice. They who were not supposed to vote will provide the margin of victory when we win this thing on the night of November 8th. You all with me on this? We have one more VIP introduction I want to make. State Representative Jelanda Jones is here right now. Please stand up for Representative Jones. Thank you for being here. We are going to hang out for just a little bit. Right this time? Oh, wait, hold on. But before we do that, we were honored as President Martin told us earlier by the presence of TSU students who are here. And one of those students who was supposed to be part of the introductory team is here with us right now. Her name is Reagan. I'm going to turn the microphone over to her. We're going to hang out, listen to what she has to say, and then we're going to gather for pictures. And when you take those pictures, the only thing I ask of you is to put them up on that social media that I was just talking shit about earlier, saying it doesn't do anything. Put that up on social media because it does increase awareness. And listen, your friends may or may not know me or like me or want to vote for me, but when they see you with me, they are more likely to join us in this. Okay? So you're working on that? Ladies and gentlemen, here comes Reagan.
Greetings, my name is Reagan Lewis. I am a junior biology pre-mental major with a minor in chemistry in the Thomas Edmund Honors College at Texas University. I currently serve as the chief of staff of the Student Government Association and the Post Administration. HBCUs are rooted in Black excellence in history. HBCUs give students the opportunity to get a quality education all while feeling safe, seen, and heard. Overall, HBCUs, and especially Texas A&M University, give students a chance to succeed. That is why the governance race is important. We need a government that sees and understands the importance of HBCUs. We need a government that will seek and provide HBCUs with the resources needed to support its students and staff. We need an advocate that will stand strong for HBCUs because graduates will in return support our HBCUs and communities. And that's something we need is Beto O'Rourke.
All right, everybody. Thank you, Raven, for being here. Thanks to all the students at the University of Houston, TSU, for doing what you do. Congressman Sheila Jackson-Lee, Representative Jelanda Jones, and everyone who came out today. Cynthia said we're headed up on the stage, right in front of that great Texas flag, taking pictures with anyone and everyone who wants to come up. Thank you so much.
All right, we are going to make a line, so if you